that we need, that staff member is going to stay, and by reducing the preschools.
So is there a chance we'd be adjusting the tuition for that program?
I don't think that we're prepared to make that recommendation.
Okay. All right.
Unfortunately, it's a question of supply and demand. We can rethink that.
Or maybe we could apply some IDA money that you're in a hole.
Well, that's one of the things that Christine Dodge was going to look at, is whether we can.
Give it a new name.
Yes, but we want to certainly stay clean. So, and I know you would agree. Whether there's a way to, because of the reformulation of the program, whether that would in effect constitute a new program.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the one question we have that we've talked about is if we create a PDD kindergarten, is that a new program?
Exactly.
And if it is, can we offset some of the cost with half that money?
Maureen,
Do you have any other
I'd like to
data?
make a couple other. I know we're not ready to pour through this on a detailed level, but a couple other more. If I can make just a couple comments. If the committee would be kind enough to turn to page 4 of the budget for a moment. Page 4 is a summary of the expense lines, and it's important to note that if you look at the far right-hand column that's entitled FY11 Budget for the General Fund, look at the bottom, you can see the expenses total $4,841,000. If you move over 3 columns to the FY10 column, you see a number there, $4,909,000. The point I'm making is, from FY10 to FY11, we're actually reducing the expense budget by about $60,000. That's pretty extraordinary. And why is that? The primary reason for that, as I've noted before, the special ed tuitions appear to be lower next year. A couple things. Governor is freezing the private school tuition rates. That's part of that. But more importantly, demographically, there's a bubble of ages, and there's several of our children reaching the age of 22, which means what we call it aging out. They move out of the public domain in terms of expense. But this is also a result of bare knuckle budgeting here. You know, how often have we come in with a preliminary budget with a reduction on year to year on expenses? Never. Yeah. There's usually several $100,000 delta there. So you kind of see, so all of our increase on year to year is really on the salary side. And that salary for teachers, let's remember, involves a 1% increase. So as a result of the school committee negotiation with a teacher union, we have a year-to-year budget increase on the salary scale of only 1%. And most of the other employee groups are also in that fairly conservative area. So that $1 million plus increase in salary is really due to 2 factors: negotiated increases, which are actually fairly reasonable, and secondly, the loss of some one-time revenues that Dr. Mindel has talked about. Not only some ARRA money, but some revolving account money, which we'll get into more detail. But I just thought it was kind of important to talk about the budget increase in that fashion.
For the next go around, can we see enrollment shots? Dr. Mandel, for
yes, sure.
See if there's any merging in staff and classes.
I also want to note, I think, you know, in the past we've had a big list of new positions that the administrators were looking for, and then we cull through those. And I have to say that these, at least the, I can't really comment on the Hood reading teacher and the Batchelder inclusion para because we need more specifics on that. But I've been supporting a new high school guidance counselor for at least 2 years now. It's way too many students for 3 guidance counselors. We have over 700 students at the school, and we have 3 guidance counselors, and that's just not enough. And I think John Faucher's idea of introducing German at the middle school is also excellent, and we've been trying to expand our languages. And I keep coming back to, these are such basic things that we can't do here. Such basic things. We're not asking for a lot. And we continue to be unable to do the things that we need to do. And yet, you know, if you look at some of the colleges that our students are getting into this year, again at the high school, it's just outstanding. So we keep turning out great students, but we could be doing better. And I think that's the key here. Carl, the other thing I wanted to ask you, just in general, without going into specifics, there were over $2 million in budget offsets between page 3 and 4. Now I know a lot of that is, some of that is still ARA money.
Yes.
Some of it is, you know, special ed money, correct?
Yes.
That comes in from the state, circuit breaker, et cetera. But when I look next to the teachers, I see offset of $403,000. Is that grants? And I mean, what specifically falls into that category?
Well, you know what I will do, by the way, as we get into the budget, let me bring a detailed list of all the
Okay.
budget offsets.
That'd be good.
But
That would be great.
I want to make that more transparent in this budget because it's an increasing portion of our budget. It used to be footnote. It's no longer footnote. So in fact, you'll see on page 3, as you've noted, there are 3 columns, one of which is devoted to what the budget offsets are for salary on page 3. But to answer your question, Mel, $403,000, it's a mixture of things, and I'll show that in the detail. But it includes some of our funding from the full-day kindergarten program. We devote some of the tuitions that full-day kindergarten parents
Right.
pay for the full-day kindergarten teachers.
Okay.
In pre-K also, the
Right.
tuitions come in that way. It includes ARA money, both SFSF and IDEA.
Right.
So those 4 sources comprise that figure.
Because this really is truly almost a $26 million budget if you take those funds that come from other sources besides the town.
Yes.
Okay. Great. That's great.
Well, so level services, no new positions, no extra money in the expense account, is but $1,017,000. And that's the budget that the school committee's defending to date. What we've been instructed from finance planning meetings is a level funded budget, so that would be the $22.8 million listed under the FY10 budget.
Right.
So, okay.
So do we need to schedule some budget workshops to discuss this, or is it too premature without, I mean, it's going to be premature until July probably, but we have to have a budget before then.
Well, going through February, we should probably plan at least 1 or 2, because we still have our public meeting set for March. That's still on the books of March. We did move that.
Okay.
All right, so we're still at level services, not level funding.
Right.
Next item on the agenda is the school building project update.
I have had a long discussion with representatives of the school building authority, and well, it came out of last Friday's meeting with the joint finance group. I spoke with Diane Sullivan, and I wanted to clearly understand the process we're in, what the timelines are, and what our requirements are, and when we go into the second phase, what all that means. So basically, North Reading's in the first phase of the process, and requires us to complete all the forms we've received. Some of the stuff we're working on, the enrollment projections and that kind of thing. I think the most important form right now is the composition of the secondary school building committee. And at Maureen's request, I've included a copy of the recent most recent charge I could find of the school committee to the secondary school building committee, and also the policies surrounding the existence of that particular committee. Once the committee is formulated and the forms have been completed and accepted, then MSBA and North Reading will sit down and have what they call a scope of study discussion. And at this time, we will also have to pick an owner's project manager and a designer to do the feasibility study. The purpose of this scope of study discussion is so MSBA can talk to whoever we choose to do the feasibility study and tell them what they want them to look for. Diane Sullivan said several times during the discussion that they want to work with us. It's a joint cooperative effort. So the cost of phase one is the money for the feasibility study and also whatever the salary is determined to go to the owner's project manager. And I had called a business manager that I've worked with before, who I know just did a building project, and asked her about the cost of a feasibility study, and she said it's about $100,000. Now I thought it was much, much more than that, so that's good news. MSBA will work with the district's pace during this phase, but it's not the type of thing where they're going to be tolerant and just say, well, whenever you're ready, we'll go. They want this thing to move. And then once MSBA accepts the feasibility study and says, okay, this is what we want, that's when the timelines kick in. Because once that starts, then you're kind of playing with MSBA money. And that's when the district then has 4 months or 120 days to give proof that the town is willing to support the construction of the new project. And if the feasibility study is approved and if the town demonstrates how they're going to pay for it, then it goes forward. But if it doesn't, it doesn't. So basically right now, we're not under any timelines, we're not under any, any pressure. You got the forms, you've got 3 months or anything like that. But they do expect North Reading and any other district to work in a timely manner to get all this done. The form that is in the, the charge is in the packet, and I believe I put all the forms in the last packet. And you can see that the screening committee, I'm sorry, not the screening committee, I'm getting mixed up. The secondary school building committee is a little bit bigger and a little bit more involved than it had been before. We had a pretty constructive discussion about that, I think, on Friday morning about who would be on that committee. But I think it's kind of important that we get that committee formulated as quickly as possible, because I think whoever, the representatives of that committee are going to, of necessity, be the people that are going to carry this through the interim phase and into the new superintendent.
How are we getting word out there then of the types of people we need for the committee?
I think we should ask the school building committee to attend our next school committee meeting and review that in public,
Okay.
and then put out the call.
Because there's some very specific
Right.
types of.
Yes, there are.
Right. There's some people where I don't think at this point we have any, I keep forgetting what it is, Keith.
An
what is the-
architect and an
Well, some certification.
MCPPO.
MCPPO certified official, which we don't even have in the town, although Great Valley Conus, I guess, is close
You're
to
one
being
course away.
MCPPO
I
certified.
think he's only an MCPP.
Yeah, he doesn't have the O yet. And, but there's probably 3 or 4 members that we don't, 3 or 4 positions we aren't in compliance with right now.
Yeah.
The other thing is, if you look at the responsibilities of the charge, which is now 5 years old,
Yeah.
most of the responsibilities aren't what we would be doing now, because we don't hire the architect anymore, and we don't get conceptual designs anymore, and that's all done in cooperation with the state.
It seems like having a project manager at that early stage, but I guess that's the way they want it done.
That's the way they want it done.
To oversee the feasibility, so
Yes.
it's on the right track
Yeah.
Yeah.
before you go to,
Right.
All right.
putting them into blueprints.
So